the grace of God, got scholarship. Like I said, I'm very highly motivated. I always want to be the top of my class. I was in the so-called accelerated scheme. That is at the very first year, out of 90 students, class A, B, C, they take the brightest 30 of the 90 and put them in class 2A. From class 2A, you do class 3A. And after class 3A, instead of class 4, you do class lower 5. Which means you will be taking the school certificate examination with people who are 1 year your senior.
Yeah.
That was how I took my school certificate examination. And still ended up with virtually A's in most of my distance. So I've won a federal government of Nigerian scholarship to study mining engineering in the United States of America. And by the grace of God, before then, I had gotten engaged to this wonderfully beautiful girl that God gave me as a wife. And I was still an undergraduate. She was schooling in England, and I was in the US. She finished before me because she left before me. And my parents had, done the traditional thing. My father surprised me. He said, "Chinedu, I don't want you to go there and marry a white woman. Before, before you leave, you must show me the girl you want to marry." When I mentioned her name, she was already in the UK then. And before I entered the university, my father literally took me to my in-laws' place and told them my son wants to marry you. That's for another day anyway. But that's the love story that started when we were in secondary school and culminated to now we've been married for 47 years to the glory of God. I was an undergraduate in South Dakota School of Mines and Technology when we got married on the 23rd of July, 1977. So we just celebrated our 47th wedding anniversary a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And God has blessed us with 4 children, 2 wonderful daughters, 2 wonderful sons, and 12 grandchildren. Yeah. Wow. But then when I graduated in university, I made a first class honors. I was highest ranking student. I was the top of my class and eventually got another. I continued for masters on scholarship and fellowship from the university there, and eventually got a PhD scholarship from Nigeria, Nigerian government. We came back after my master's, and then because I felt I was so family oriented and I was more like an evangelist more than an engineer, teaching engineering in the university. So I felt I needed a PhD, and then when applied and got a federal government scholarship to do PhD in materials engineering and science. So that's what happened. And it's all to the glory of God that throughout my stay, even when I was doing my master's degree in the US, I was studious. And let me tell you, as an undergraduate, I had a federal government scholarship, but I still felt I needed to work. So I was doing a part-time job because I had gotten married. In my second year in the university, I got married. So I felt I needed to start a family. We got the blessings. My father was gone. Her mother was gone, but my mother completed where my father stopped the traditional rites. And many young people will say, I have a scholarship. I had one Nigerian student with me who was on scholarship. He was so lousy, so lazy. He didn't care. He was not motivated. He was only looking for where there was disco dance and all kinds of drinking and so on. I was never a part of that. I faced my studied diligently. In fact, I worked for Sears, one of the greatest department stores in the US in those days.
Yeah.
That was even way before Walmart and all those Kmart and Sears Kmart and all those were the popular ones in those days.
Yeah.
I think there
Costco?
was yeah, some of those. So at the end of the day, I was the first person that Sears claimed in Rapid City that worked and received an honorary mention and certificate in less than 2 months.
Wow.
Because I enjoyed my work. What was I doing? For those who say, I'm on scholarship, I can't do. I was just lifting heavy things. Refrigerators, freezers, washing machine, drying machine, ranges, that is ovens, cookers and so on. And while I'm delivering them, putting it in people's car, I will be singing and enjoying myself. And people just like this black boy.
Wow.
I didn't know they were writing reports and telling people, you guys have some good boys there, So one day I got a certificate and they gave me lunches and so on, invited me to an honorary, mention, an award kind of thing, having worked there for only a couple of months.
Oh my God.
So I served them as a part-time worker. Then it didn't prevent me from not only getting my degrees, but getting it in record time and making first class honors and being the best in my class. It didn't just happen like that. I worked very hard for that. And then because I was burnt out, I said instead of going straight to do PhD, that was why I did master's degree first. And then came back to Nigeria only to find out that if you want to be in the university system, you need a PhD. That was what made us go back. By then, our first daughter had been born in England because my wife left for UK where she studied and had the baby there because they had health insurance program, which I didn't have in America. The second one was born and in the United States of America. By then, I had finished my master's degree and was working for Duval Corporation in Tucson, Arizona. The mine was at Saharita. They were the second largest molybdenum producers in America and the fifth largest copper producers in America. And the only company in the world then that was processing a huge amount of copper by hydrometallurgy instead of the normal pyrometallurgy that does a lot of pollution to the environment. So I felt that was the company I wanted to work for. And I worked for them to get what we call practical experience there, like you say, industrial training before returning back to Nigeria. And then returning to, after when I was going, they said, why must you go? I said, I have to go back home. I had a scholarship and there is a bond. I have to live in Nigeria for a couple of years, serve Nigeria. Say, anytime you know how Americans talk.
Yeah.
The vice president told you, anytime you bring your ass back to America, make sure you come here and work because we are ready to take you anytime you come back. We will take you, But anyway, when I came back, it was to do my PhD and finish my PhD and went back to Nigeria, came back to Nigeria eventually and started working. The first time I couldn't go back to the university. I wanted to be on my own, start an agricultural food processing industry. Because while in the US, I was sacked for leaving before the final approval for my leave of absence came.
Okay.
Because you know how people delay in Nigeria. So I had to leave for my PhD. And they had no business sacking me because I was on federal scholarship. You can't sack somebody who got a federal scholarship to go and study like that. I put in, everybody said they went through the department, went through the faculty, went through the college. But I hadn't received the president because the president, that was the first two people that ran ASUTEC.
Okay.
We are called president before they started calling them vice chancellor from the third one.
That's good.
It was the second one, Professor Umechile. So I was sacked. So I felt insulted. I didn't want to go back. But I thank God for that. My wife and I jubilated. We say maybe God is telling us that we don't belong to 8 to 5 kind of job. We want to start an industry. And from that industry, we'll generate a lot of funds for propagation of the gospel, because I always see myself as an evangelist right from when I was very young, So But eventually, a couple of years after establishing that farm, a very large farm for that matter, the university came asking me to come back. They admitted a PhD candidate, but nobody to supervise him because the field he had chosen, I was the only one qualified who was around then. So they pleaded with me to come back. That was how I found myself going back to the university that I had rejected before. And to the glory of God, from that, rose in ranks at the university, was promoted, became a senior lecturer, eventually became a dean of student affairs, and then became a professor. I was also at the time associate dean of engineering, and eventually rose to the rank of deputy vice chancellor. Completed my tenure of 2 times 2 years, which 4 years. And then the advertisement for University of Nigeria Vice Chancellorship came out. And I didn't apply, but some people came. They called them the search party, who are always commissioned to search out for qualified people who ordinarily would not apply unless they are encouraged and kind of giving the kind of push to apply. But they are so qualified, but they don't want to, or they don't feel like. So when they now came and they convinced me to apply, I now applied. And by the grace of God, the rest is history. I became Vice Chancellor, University of Nigeria Nsukka. And that was a time that lots of things happened. When I got to the UNN, it had earned the reputation of National War College number 2. Because 2 years before I became Vice Chancellor, cultists assassinated the chief security officer of the university and took over the campus. A year before I became Vice Chancellor, cultists assassinated the dean of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences. So cult wars were so prevalent there. But by the grace of God, I fought cultism to a standstill at UNN and eventually sacked cultism from UNN.
Wow.
I had a policy I called zero tolerance for cultism. I dealt with them. It didn't matter whose ox was God. Many of the cultists were children of the highest level of people, including preachers, politicians, policemen, army, military. And they came to cause confusion. I dealt with them by making sure I created an environment so conducive for those who wanted to study to study.
Yeah.
And at UNN too, God helped me. I brought peace to the campus, brought back Professor Ndele, who was disgraced out, who was, until I came, the best ever Vice Chancellor UNN ever had. And they dealt with him because he was a righteous man and so on. And that brought peace to the campus.
Wow.
Not only that, I did what no other Vice Chancellor has ever done up to today in the history of Nigerian university, a federal university, using internally generated revenue to build 14 lecture theaters.
Wow.
One lecture theater for every faculty. The 15th one was a donation from the governor of Rivers State. But the other 14, all those lecture theaters you see at UNN, I built them without one kobo from federal government or any government. They were all from internally generated revenues. When the school fees was only 10,500 lowest and 20,500 or so for medicine. Yet I was able to do all that. Completed virtually all the abandoned projects. They used to call it the university, the mother of all abandoned projects. But I got most of them complete. Some we abandoned 5 years. The money had been expended and yet project uncompleted. We were completed most of them. Many of the third fund projects, federal projects and so on. And then brought back the university's academic calendar because no more cult wars.
Yeah.
I made sure that anytime there was a national strike, I would call all the staff. It was ASU staff. I would call all the lecturers, and we would take a resolution, no strike at UNN. If it was SANU, I would do the same for the senior staff, and no strike. For 5 years, UNN didn't encounter strike under my tenure. That was how we recovered that academic calendar. That I think within about 10 years, 3 sessions have been lost. So God used me to do wonders there, and I'm so grateful. He gave me wonderful people who worked with me and who were very willing to serve, excellent friends, and some of them poured out their life in service, for which I'm ever so grateful to God that I had such lieutenants working with me at UNN. So it was, after that, I was on sabbatical after UNN when the call now came for me to become Pioneer Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Ekiti. By the grace of God, that was one of the 9 universities and the only one not started on time because there was a quarrel. The federal government wanted it to, the senator representing the area wanted it to be in his hometown. The governor was from opposition party and wanted it to be in another place. So the governor, because governors are the ones who own the land, refused to give any land to the federal government unless where he chose. And the senator said no. The Commissioner of Education told me, you people can go to hell with your university if you don't want to take it to where the governor wants. Eventually, after much pressure and my lobbying with the governor, federal government, we decided to have 2 campuses. And President approved that of these 9 new universities, mine was the only one that was granted leave to have 2 campuses. So we could get started. Otherwise, by April 11th, the others had been given their permanent site. I had no permanent site until October. And to the glory of God, even though I had no permanent site until October, I was one of the first to start full academic activities. Even though I started 6 months after the others. And by the grace of God, what was then eventually referred to as the 6-month miracle occurred, turning a virgin forest into a university campus within a 6 to 8 months. The reason being that the governor refused to give us a take-off site. He gave me bare forest. Every one of the other universities, all 8 of them, had take-off sites, either former colleges of education, polytechnics, or high-rated secondary school. I had no such to start my university. And yet, within 6 to 8 months, full activities have started at the university by the grace of God. And by God's grace, that university eventually got to where nowadays it's rated among the top 18 to top 20 universities in Nigeria. That's a university that just started the other day. And I give God all the praise for it. So it was while I was there that President Jonathan appointed me as the Minister of Power of the Federal Republic. And I was there until, because of election failure, PDP was sacked and APC took over. That was how my tenure as Minister of Power ended. And thereafter, you know, I continued working personally, individually, as a consultant engineer, doing my own thing, and then serving in the church. I then devoted a lot of my time to the church, eventually became the provost of the Cathedral Church of St. Cyprian's in Enugu. And after retiring, I was now called to become the Pioneer Vice Chancellor of the University on the Niger, established by the Diocese of Niger, on the Niger Anglican Communion. So that's where we are. So I'm still working as the Vice Chancellor of the University on the Niger. today.
Oh,
So that's just in brief
my
my
goodness.
encounter with life.
This is super inspirational. Honestly, like I am speechless. So looking at all of these things, like when you look back, how do all these make you feel today?
I am so grateful to God. It's God all through. You know, people ask, how did you achieve everything you've achieved? Number one is my deep commitment to the Lord, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's number one. I'm not ashamed to say that I have a personal relationship with Him as my Lord and Savior. Number two, God gave me the best woman anybody could ever have as a wife. We are so close together, and she's been an incredible inspiration to me in all ramifications, and I thank God for that. And God has blessed the two of us with four wonderful children. The older ones, the three who were grown, and the one born out of season. The older three are married with their own family, children. You know, we have 12 grandchildren now by the grace of God. But the last one who was born out of season is in his penultimate year in the university now. So God has been so good and kind. And all through this time, I have ever been in the forefront of missions and missionary activities. I've never dropped my guard or let down my guard with regard to my spiritual debt and service to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So I continue to serve in the church till today. I have not given up on that. I cannot give up on that. So people ask, do you have time for recreation? Fine. Well, I don't know if anything could be more recreative than being in the presence of God, singing and dancing and praising God with all other people and so on. It's so refreshing to do that. And serving Him in so many. And I like singing. My wife and I sing a lot. If you lived in our house, you will know that we enjoy singing. We do that. We have a morning devotion every day. We have a nightly devotion every day. So whenever you could just occasionally just see the two of us singing away and enjoying ourselves, and with our voices blending different parts, you know. And so,
I like that. I like that.